Welcome to Köie Jutud podcast, Sari.
Thank you for having me.
So Sari is a rope rigger and the bottom from Germany, who I admire a lot. And it has been a great pleasure to have you here in Estonia to teach and see your performances. So how are you feeling?
Yes, it was a very beautiful stay. I'm happy we can talk about it now a bit in your podcast.
Mm-hmm. So tell me a little bit more about yourself, how you got into Shibari and...
So now about 4.5 years ago, some rope marks on a former lover catched my interest. And I wanted him to explain it to me. What are these marks? He tried. I couldn't understand. I asked for a better explanation. He couldn't provide it. So I started to look for some information somewhere else because I still didn't know why, but it appealed to me so much. Something was calling me, I felt. And at least that's the way I work. I wanted to understand, why are people tying each other up? It sounds rude. It sounds violent. But still, I understood something inside of me was longing for not just understanding, but some parts of me already understood something that my brain was too slow for back then because of the way I was brought up and the conditioning of society. And I also didn't have any access to the internet before I moved out from my parents' place, just because, I don't know, it was a different time back then. So I had no pictures in my mind about BDSM, about tying, about sex. So everything was quite heteronormative in my brain and very romantic. And this one guy and this one girl will stay forever together and marry and have kids and build a house. And I was just naturally growing into this, but still at the same time, I don't know, it didn't really fit myself. And then with this new information I got, I moved to a different city. I talked to some people online, and the first person who asked me online was my former partner, Sasha. He's known as Vagabond in the scene, and the first question he shot me online was, do you want to talk about Shibari? Or like tying people up? And yes, that was exactly what I wanted. And he took a lot of time and effort and sensitivity in answering all my 100 million questions. And 2 days later, my brain was satisfied, but my body was still not sure. What is it now about? How is it feeling? I could understand. I mean, I started to understand, but my body was completely, I don't know, confused still. So when the first rope touched my body from this still almost complete stranger, I already felt so trusted by him. I already trusted him so much. It was nothing violent. It was nothing something someone could take from me. It was, I understood I'm offering myself in this moment in a very trustworthy frame that someone is providing for me to actually get to know more about myself, my body, my emotions. And so not I got into it, but the rope got into me. I feel it was this way around. And for the first moment of rope and my body touching each other, I don't know, I felt, okay, this is what everyone should feel. And I know it was not about feeling specifically the rope, it was more about understanding more about ourselves with any method. But rope was a super fast track, very easy for me to understand a lot about my body and my emotions and how my brain works as well.
Yes. This is really interesting topic. Yes, like rope is like easy track to feel certain emotions that I can feel certain emotions that I usually don't. For example, like when we did the session yesterday and you tied me, I like felt like anger. I don't feel anger in my life at all. I don't have the opportunity or nothing happens to me that I feel anger. But when you tied me, you brought this hidden emotion out within, and it was like very pleasurable for me to feel it, because it was I saw the hidden side, so that made me like very grateful to you later on. That's probably why I started crying, because this part came out that's been like suppressed.
Mm-hmm. I think it's super powerful to understand that these emotions belong to us and doesn't make us, I don't know, a bad person or something like this. It's just the other side of the coin to all these so-called good feelings people are mostly after. But it's so important to understand that we are human and all these emotions belong to us. And it's also okay to feel all these emotions. What is just important is not suppressing them and storing them in your body, but just by feeling them, we can let go of them.
Mm-hmm. Has it gone like through waves? Like you've thought, like, okay, this next step is too much, but when you get to know it more, then you become starting more to accept it. Like what I mean is, like, for me, first when I heard about like pain, I really didn't want to be any part of it. I said it's not for me. But once I started understanding more, like creating the safe space where to explore it, I become like a big fan of it now. Have you had like these different parts?
Yeah, I think I understand the question, but I don't know. For me, my relationship to pain is probably a bit different than for most people. Pain for me is more something I could not bear and I would die from. This, what we are doing mostly in BDSM, is for me setting very strong signals to have access to the present moment, to get access to your emotions where you cannot hide from it any longer. And through these intense signals, it's super helpful actually to dive really, really inside of yourself, and not just this, but because you are so present and allowed to feel, and then there is also this strong power of someone witnessing you in this moment. This is what we would have needed when we were growing up. That someone sits with us and allows us actually to feel all this emotion, to understand it's fine. They come, they go, they belong to you, and you are allowed to feel them. And I really like strong signals with everything. I like intensity. Strong signals can also be someone is talking in a very present way to you. It's pain is for me unbearable. And I've had very strong pain in my life from accidents. Also each month when I have my period, this is kind of pain I cannot process. This is kind of pain that makes me helpless, that makes me so miserable that I start to deceive myself. I cannot think anymore. And usually this is what I want, an empty brain by everything I do. But to understand that we still can overcome even this horrible pain, I think a lot of people can just not distinguish what is pain and what is only unusual feeling for us, or what is uncomfortable that we of course usually try to avoid. But it's not about avoiding our life, it's about feeling it and going through it, and not also labeling everything. I think we tend to, when it gets intense, start to interpret it in our minds, making our stories out of it, from past experiences, from what someone else told us that this should be. But I don't know, I have a bit of a different understanding about this stuff, and I also really feel we should not label everything we experience, because this is what brings us out of the body and out of the present moment again.
Mm-hmm. So what's your superpower in Shibari?
I think my biggest superpower is that I tie for the same reason that I want to be tied as well. I think my biggest superpower is that I'm both rigor and bottom by heart, that both feel so natural to me that I can have a lot of compassion for both bottoms and rigors. And I feel not that someone, so to say, the rigor is doing something or providing something for the bottom. It's the same when you look from the other direction. The bottom is providing and also giving something to the rigor. In this moment, both are kind of collaborating together on getting to know each other, getting to know the connection, and sharing a real moment.
I have mostly done the rigging, so I haven't experienced that much of the bottom part. With you, we did like the proper session, like a long session, and I went really on a journey to see the your style of tying, and it's quite different from mine, but I was so grateful to see that there is like a totally like different way of doing it, and there was like so much depth, and it was definitely a journey, like emotional roller coaster.
You gave so much of yourself in this session, and I will never forget these hours. It was quite long.
Yes, but also like, well, we've known each other now for like
5 days.
5 days. Yes, so it was also like when you tied me, I saw like or felt like a different side of you, or I felt like everything became like more like real. So it's also like I feel like if you're tying with somebody, you like see more of the other person. It's like a communication device, like this rope.
Definitely. I mean, if I would never do or say some of these things to you I did yesterday in the session, maybe I would want to, but it would never fit into day-to-day life, you know? And also for me to show myself how I did yesterday in this intense session with you requires that I trust you, requires that I want to tie you because I got to know you a bit as a person. And the way you hosted us here during the last days, the way you talk, the way you think, and the way you bring up topics that are super interesting for me, but most of all, the way you actively listen is something that makes you so special and very attractive.
Thank you, Sari. It's been my pleasure. I want to talk to you about relationships. People often in this podcast we talk about Shibari, but I've also noticed it has definitely changed the way I approach relationships. For me, like personally, like started doing Shibari, I want to see people more, or I want to spend more time with them, especially in Shibari context. So it has definitely changed my love life and or personal life. How has Shibari changed your personal life in any way?
So just that I understand the question right, do you have a sexual relationship with everyone you tie?
No. Yeah, has it changed the way that you approach relationships?
Yes. Okay, then I think I understand the question right.
Mm-hmm.
BDSM in general, getting to know about myself more definitely changed a lot. I understood that I love moments, that of course including people, but it is the moments we create together I really admire and love. And of course, if we keep creating amazing moments with one person, probably we want to continue to see this person, definitely. So I understood if I want to love my moments, fill them with a lot of intensity and realness and compassion and understanding, of course, this is also what I wish for everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, for our ego, especially the way we were. I mean, I just want to talk for myself. especially the way I was brought up. My ego comes into the way still a lot of the time and tells me, but I want to be special for someone. But by now it's easy for me to just stop when these thoughts are coming up and turning it again around in my mind. And of course, I am still special for someone just because they see someone else. And of course, this other person that is very dear to me is very special to me just because I do something with someone else. And I'm not sure by now if I'm really into polyamory, but I definitely know by now I'm only here for open relationships. There is no other way by now for me, because we can never predict with whom we are, how we feel, what we are doing. We cannot predict what we desire in a moment. And I don't want to restrict myself, so I cannot restrict anyone else. And I feel this restriction and feeling special and being the only one, again, has a lot to do with ego, but not so much with real love and really sharing ourselves.
Yes. What's the difference between polygamy and open relationship for you?
Yeah, so for me, in open relationships, you are very free still to explore, but still there's this one person that is your main partner. And of course, things can change. And I don't want to say, it cannot happen, that then we have multiple relationships at the same time. But polyamory for me requires more that you share your love with multiple people. I know it's really hard to divide. And again, I am maybe polyamor for moments, but not for people. Yes, maybe I can explain it like this, but in an open relationship, I would love one person and I would still love other moments. And again, we can never predict what is going to happen just for now, and it's a bit hard to describe. I feel this would work more for me because, I don't know, I love some sort of commitment, and it has nothing to do with rules or anything. I want to know my person, and I want them to feel free to share everything with me they want. And of course, that they share stuff with others that they want. I'm just about very open communication when it comes to this. And I feel polyamory requires a lot of planning, communication, understanding different desires of different people in the group. And I am still quite inexperienced in this, so I feel by now for me it's a hard task to go straight there to try to manage everything. And for me in an open relationship it's a bit easier to handle.
Yes, very fascinating. So do you have any favorite Shibari moments that pop to your head?
I mean, there were many, but the one that really always comes in my brain was when the one that always comes to my brain first is a very special moment. I think I have been bottom for 1.5 or 2 years or something. I was getting tired a lot. So there were a lot of beautiful moments. But yeah, in this one tie, I was suspended. I felt glorious and super proud, super strong, and so beautiful. Because this person that was tying me gave it to me, like I could see their admiration for myself. I could see how they were looking at me at this moment. And this was already super powerful. But then they looked at me and said, "You are the most beautiful in my robes." And I don't know, I couldn't hold myself together. In this moment, I realized this was what I was missing. In this moment, I realized this dark place inside of me, And at the same time, it was filled with love and light. And it was at the same time super horrible and super beautiful. We were talking about my correlation of love and grief. And in this moment, I understood it for the very first time, how close these two are together. Because only when we understand our grief and what was missing, of course, we can understand what we want now, what it is important for us, and also we can decide what we want to give to others, also what we want to demand from others if they really want to be close to us from now on. So it's about big, big understandings about my own feelings, the way my brain works, and of course, everything is normal inside of us because we don't know it any differently. But of course, we are able to understand more, to change the way we see ourselves, we see the world. And I think, still this is super powerful moment I also love to give to others.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, this was quite deep again, so one of my favorite rigor moments that comes up is more a bit of a nerdy technical one,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't know how it is for you, but when you start learning, of course, you recreate exactly the patterns you are learning from your teachers. It's important to understand not just how you tie them, but why you tie them. So you go over this again and again, and you're doing it on different bodies, and more you understand how it works. And then there was the first moment at EURIX, I think 2 years ago, when I tied Sanna from Finland. She's a very good friend, and I tied the TK on her. And then after the second rope was finished, I looked at her, and in this moment, for the first time, I knew I could already see where I wanted to put my third rope on her, because it was her body was telling it to me. I had understood in this moment enough on the technical side that I could finally start into creating my own tie. And there is, of course, sometimes you have to follow technical advices, but then you can adjust in some other parts of ties. And this was so magical and powerful for me to understand, wow, okay, I understood why I tie it the way I have to do the technical part, and I understood where and how I can adjust it perfectly to this body that is in front of me.
Yes, I've noticed your this technical accuracy is like really admirable. When I see you tie, you like to get all these small details right, and you really are really focused. That is really beautiful to see. You're like an artist working on a masterpiece.
Because these bodies we tie are all masterpieces, and it's not about being a ropey nerd has to do everything right, and I want to be perfect, but only if it looks perfect, it is aesthetically pleasing to me, and only if this is also true, only then the feeling is really nice. I don't want to hurt my bottoms by bad technique. I want to hurt them by bringing tension in their body and creating intensity on the go in the tie.
Yes.
And a lot of the time I feel this could be improved in the Shibari scene to understand a bit better about basics, about how it would feel if you fuck up the basics in a tie. And this is also, again, where I feel I have quite an advantage, because I would know how it would feel if I tie it shitty. And I would also, for my body, that someone take a lot of care, because, again, we are all masterpieces.
Yes. Yes, I've experienced this sometimes when I practice by myself and I tie myself, I do it on purpose, wrong way and the right way, so I could feel the difference. And when I do the wrong way, I understand, okay, this feels really shitty. Like this feels really bad. So that's why you have to do it the right way. So
I think there are some rules you have to understand in technique. But if you understood them, you can break them. You know, if you do it on purpose and there is an intention behind it, I even find it super hot and sexy. But to fail at technique because you don't know better, I feel no bottom deserves this so much.
Yes, definitely. That has to be definitely safe. But there I've noticed you like breaking the rules, or you get the desire to. If you say you can't do this, then you're especially interested of doing it, like with the Taunos knife.
Yes.
And when I told you not to pull the beard, you
I didn't.
You
no?
You didn't, but that's the only thing that you wanted to do the most.
But not because you told me not to do. I was already looking forward to do it before. And
right.
then you said it and I was like, okay, of course I don't do it. But still, maybe one day you allow me to do it.
All right, one day.
Yes.
So what was the last thing that you learned? So what was the last thing that you have learned in Shibari?
After a certain point, of course, when you learn, you get a lot of technical new input, means how you build a certain shape, how you recreate a certain shape. But the bigger lessons are, for me, always what is behind the technique. How you get better about staying compassionate and holding the connection and space, how to read the other person better. And I think I said it already in the workshop, but one of the most valuable tips for me, like personally wise, because I am quite impatient. I am quite a perfectionist, and we all know this is not really a good sign. We are perfectionists to reveal something else. No, not reveal, but so we are perfectionists to hide something else inside of us, an insecurity to be fully vulnerable or whatever. So a teacher in Milan, Federico Kirigami, said, if you want to speed up your tying, slow down your hand movements as much as you can. And this was really the most valuable tip I had. And it's not just about speeding up your tying, of course. It's also really about understanding and being present in the moment, not already thinking about the next move, but do what you do with love in this moment. And then after you finished, you can go into the next step. And I think this is the secret to stay and go into flow state.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. Yes, like in the slowness and in the being in the moment, it becomes much more effective and much more beautiful. It also like feels better for both sides.
Yes.
And you get to feel more as well. Because if you just rush, you don't feel as much.
Yes.
So what is that you would like to achieve next in Shibari, or what would be your next lesson or in that regard?
Of course, I want to take more workshops with the people I admire. But what is more important, to stick to your practice and actually practice and understand what you were learning. But by now, more important for me is to build deeper and more meaningful connections with the people I already tie with. If there will be someone new, fine, but I don't care about achievements so much by now. It's a lot of ego in the rope scene. For me, it's only about feeling pure and the moment with the people I already have a connection with. And I understand the more you know each other, the further of the journey you went together, the deeper you can go in a session and the more you can understand again about yourself. It's a place I learned where we can create stories of ourselves and the other people. Yeah, we can be everything we want. We decide also somehow before a session how we want to feel in this. And I think it's only to understand we are grown-up kids and kids want to play, and there's nothing wrong about playing and experimenting, and being vulnerable. But of course, I want to be the best rigger in the world. No, I don't want. I think there is no competition. I really I want to embrace people from around the world who have the same interest than I do, and I want to spend more time with them to, just continue doing what we do.
Yes, exactly. Like there isn't like a best person in the world. Like each person is different. It feels it's same with Shibari. Like each has their way of doing it.
What would you like to achieve?
I would like to do more performances. Definitely, I would like to find a way to move to the like theatrical type of Shibari. Well, because I'm just like starting out, although I've been doing it for like 2.5 years, I'm not exactly a beginner anymore, but I still feel like a beginner. So I have like so much to learn. Like, for example, do more suspension, like this, the whole journey through suspension. At the moment, like only 20% of my session is suspension, if I even do a suspension. Like it's like the most of the time is suspension, or it's quite big part of it. So I would definitely like to explore that part as well.
I mean, it depends always what I want to do. Yeah, if I want to fuck this person, I probably won't suspend them. Yeah, but of course, to really go into intensity, I need some gravity.
Yes.
Gravity is my biggest lover and can be the biggest enemy, of course.
Yes, good point. Yes. All right. Thank you, Sari, for doing this podcast with me. Where can people find you?
So right now, people can find me on Instagram. I mean, the scene usually knows me as Shibari Sari, but all my profiles got deleted. So if you want to find me on Instagram, you have to look for Shumito. This is my name there. Maybe you can put the link also somewhere, because I'm also so shadow banned. So if you don't do the underscores, you also can find my name.
I will.
Yes. And yeah, I am on a lot of BDSM fairs in Germany. I'm working there. So if people come and visit, this is also a possibility. I'm not as a Shibari person there, because I don't know, Shibari people, I don't know how it is here in Estonia, but Shibari people on German fairs are usually the people who had no education, who has past of abuse. It's so funny and interesting. So I don't want to mingle with these people, but I go there because I'm working for a company who sells ginger spray. They can use it for sexual arousal and stuff like this. And I also want to...
Ginger spray?
Yes.
What is that?
It's product ginger, the root, the yellow root you can also put in tea, ingwer.
Yes.
And so in medieval times, people were tortured with raw ginger. It was like peeled, and then they put it into anus or vagina of people, and it burns so much that it was actually a real torture method.
All right.
And even nowadays, people like to play with this. In BDSM, it's called figging. So you still peel raw ginger, and you can use it as anal plug or whatever. But it can be quite tough depending on where the ginger is from in the world. So we created a product that is quite easy to for beginners, because it's not lasting for 24 hours like some ginger can do. It's easy to put on exactly the body part where you want, and like basically it's a natural alternative for lube for people who also like BDSM, because what the body does, it wants to get rid of the hotness in the ginger, and it produces the fluids that you can. So if you spray it in the mouth, like you eat a hot soup, also the nose starts running and the saliva starts dripping. So if you spray it on the pussy, also the pussy gets like not just a bit wet, but super, super wet. And the hotness in the ginger at the same time puts so much blood into these body parts that they get, of course, super red, super sensitive for any kind of touch and so on. So it can be, I use it a lot for anal preparation on people because, of course, also the muscle on the anus gets super warm, super big, super soft. And also the anal juice gets produced. It's very interesting product, and it's called Naturally Naughty. And when they asked me to work for them and they called, hey, we're Naturally Naughty, I was like, so am I. So it was a very nice name, and it's a really small company, and I don't know, I like to support them.
Super. Where can one find that product?
This is only naturallynaughty.love. You can find our website, write it all together, or maybe Google ginger spray Naturally Naughty, and you will find it. We have a web shop, and it's a very nice product.
Super great. It sounds very interesting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Next time I will bring you some. Yes.
Please do. Do they also ship to other countries?
Yes. Everywhere.
Everywhere. All right. Great. So thank you for participating in this podcast.
Thank you for having me here in your podcast and in your heart. I can feel it. Thank you.
Thank you.